and players smiling.
But Michael Jordan is not only the best basketball player, but he's the most exciting basketball player to ever play.
Tatum fires away, pumps it in. 51 for Jayson Tatum.
Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Big Three NBA podcast. Sherrod Blakely's here, Gary Washburn's here, myself, Kwani, Lunis, we're all here. So just a reminder before we get started, we want to make sure that when you're not listening to this podcast, that you're showing love to Prizepicks. They're America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. You can download the app today and get a $50 bonus after your first $5 lineup. And as a friendly reminder, you are listening to the Big Three NBA podcast, which is part of the CLNS Media Network, which is where you can find the Big Three podcast, of course, and a lot of other great Celtic content on a regular basis. So that being said, let's get started. On this
I'm
day,
here. Gary, you here? Gary, you here?
We're all here.
We're all here. Oh my gosh. And on this day in Celtics history, Larry Bird, the original number 33, retired his number today, August 18th, 1992, which is when we're recording on the 18th. You'll probably listen on the next day. But he didn't do a farewell tour or a lavish press conference, really like a no-nonsense, no frills kind of guy. But obviously one of the more memorable moments in franchise history. So that being said, when we think about Larry Bird and his impact, not only on the organization, but on the league, we're going to play a game of pick and roll. His impact, bigger on the Celtics franchise or bigger to the NBA? Which one do you pick and why?
I'm going to jump in and say bigger on the Celtics franchise because I just think that the Celtics, when you just look at them historically speaking, it's hard to get love as a Boston Celtic because they've had so many great players for so many years. And for you to be one of the all-time greats for this organization, it's a lot different than being an all-time great playing in Sacramento or playing in Seattle or, Miami or whatever the place may be. So for him to be an exceptional player, one of the all-time greats for this organization, I do think is a much bigger deal than it would be for him to be one of the all-time greats in the NBA. Because let's be honest, the Celtics are kind of that club that when you get past the velvet rope and you get into the club, there aren't that many heads in there. You're talking about Bill Russell. You're talking about Hondo. And then there's maybe a couple others. But for the most part, Larry Bird has entered a place with this organization that very, very few players have been able to enter. Whereas you look at the NBA, yeah, he's one of the all-time greats. But I think that there's so many more. I think his impact for this organization is so much greater than it is for the NBA as a whole.
Yeah, I think it's probably more important for the Celtics organization because at the time that Bird came into the league, the Celtics were down. You know, they were older. They were going through coaches. Tom Heinsohn was fired. Sanders took over briefly. He was fired. Dave Cowens had a little stint as a player coach. Like this team was kind of in disarray. There was players like Pistol Pete Maravich was a Celtic. Curtis Rowe was a Celtic. Sidney Wicks, guys who were just like, Bob McAdoo had a stint as a Celtic. Like they were really trying to find an identity post Havlicek, JoJo White, and Dave Cowens, and they weren't able to until Bird arrived in 1979-80, and suddenly the Celtics were back to being the Celtics and winning 3 championships under Bill Fitch and Casey Jones, and Bird was the leader of those teams. So his impact on resurrecting a franchise that had some hard times. If you look at we could all talk to Cedric Maxwell about those the 77 team and the 78 team and the 79 team. Those are some tough years in Boston. And so, I mean, obviously, except for maybe the Red Sox, the Patriots weren't doing so well and the Celtics weren't doing so well at all. So you're talking about bringing in a franchise player, a cornerstone into your organization who changes everything. So I think his impact on the Celtics was immeasurable because he brought the franchise back. I mean, there was questions. when Bill Russell retired and Bob Cousy, obviously before then, about 6-7 years before Russell retired. But when Russell left, it was like, well, what do the Celtics do now? They don't have Russell. They were able to come back and win 2 championships. Then Havlicek retired and JoJo White was traded, unfortunately. And Dave Cowens retired and then came back and then retired again. They were going through some real transition. And so for Bird to come in and just be a unquestioned, amazing player, be that guy, be the everything that they needed was just amazing. And to me, that changed the direction of the franchise for the next 15 years.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of what Gary's saying, the timing of Larry Bird's retirement came 6 months or so after Magic Johnson had his jersey retired in LA. And so there was a certain symmetry to when those guys came into the league and when they left. And again, as important as they were in collectively elevating the league, their ability to elevate their respective franchises, 2 of the iconic NBA franchises, I think was as important, if not more important, than what they were able to do for the NBA as a whole.
So to that point, though, what would you say on a personal level was your favorite Larry Bird moment?
What you got, Gary? You're muted, Gary.
I said it's a tough one because growing up a Laker fan, not too many great Larry Bird moments I remember. Probably just the 3-point contest, who's going to finish second, him winning the first 3-point contests and just coming in and just his confidence, his bravado, the 60-point game. The 60-point game against Atlanta in New Orleans. The game was not in Atlanta. It was at New Orleans because Atlanta did play a couple of regular season games just before New Orleans had the Pelicans and when they had lost the Jazz. So they played some games in New Orleans. And his dominance and then all the players at the end of the Hawks bench like going crazy when Bird hit tough shots. Like I'm sure that there were some players who were waved after that game because you're not supposed to cheer on an opposing player. But and the funny part was that was a few days after Mikal broke the club record with 56 points. So Mikal breaks the club record and Bird's like, oh, you should have scored more points because I'm about to get that. And a few days later in New Orleans, Bird scored 60 points. It was on 1986 and 85. And it was just his total, was all in his bag, all his total dominance, his complete game, jump shots, spinning fadeaways, 3-pointers, all of the above. And it just shows how really, truly gifted this man was. And people have always kind of doubted Larry Bird's, not say skill set, but he wasn't a freakish athlete. But first of all, he was 6'9", 6'10", and people tend to underestimate his size. Like Larry Bird was 6'9", 6. I mean, he was 6'10", and he was like Dirk before Dirk. If people could want to put some type of a label on him, the way he was able to score and the way he was able to talk trash and the way he was able to call out his opponents, the way he said to other teams, "Hey, you got a white guy guarding me? Like, you trying to lose tonight? Oh, okay." Like he literally would say that to opponents. Like, who is this dude guarding me? Oh, okay. He ain't put no brother on me. Okay, I got you. That's not the right move. I mean, just some of the things that he said to opponents, and he backing it all up. But that game in New Orleans is probably my favorite Bird moment because if you look at the tape of that game, you can look at it on YouTube. The Hawks bench, the guys at the end of the bench are literally going crazy because Bird's hitting such tough shots. And nowadays, with social media, that would not fly. But back then, I guess it did.
Yeah, it definitely did because that definitely is not happening today. For me, the moment, the game, however you want to describe it, that really stands out to me is against the Pistons, where he gets to steal, passes the DJ, he makes the layup. And the reason why that game sticks out to me is because that in that moment, it highlights something that I don't think Larry Bird will ever get enough credit for. Yes, we talk about his shooting. We talk about the trash talk that he can back up day in, day out. But what we don't talk enough about with Larry Bird is his first step. He has one of the quickest first steps getting to the ball, getting off the dribble that you will ever see. He's not the most athletic guy, but that first step, he's going to create space. And in that particular moment, his ability to make that first step, get in that passing lane, make that play, it was a reminder to me that, yeah, he ain't jumping out the gym. He's not dunking on people with regularity and doing all those things that we kind of we try to put in the category of super athletes, but he's got certain things that go above and beyond just shot making that allow him to be great. And one of those things is a very, very ultra quick first step. That's to me, that's one of the best parts about Larry Bird's game that we collectively don't talk enough about.
So I got this here.
Hey.
Larry Bird autograph. This is a second year card.
Wow. How much, Gary? How much you get for that? How much you want for that? 50 cents?
No, yeah, a little bit more than 50 cents.
50 cents is insane.
This is his first individual card. People don't know, in terms of sports memorabilia, when his rookie year, him, Magic, you would think that those cards, those rookie cards, would be millions of dollars, and they should be. Unfortunately, what the Topps company did for that 1 year is they decided to make 3 cards in one, and they decided to make a set of cards where you literally had to take the card out and tear it to make it to have that individual card. So while they have rookie cards, they're put together with 2 other players. So Magic, Bird, and then Magic and Bird and Dr. J are all on one card, unbelievably. So that card is extremely valuable, but it just kind of screwed up the entire history of their collectibles because there is no Magic Johnson rookie card individually. And this is the second year what they did. So they gave him an individual card, and it's just, after his rookie season. So I always kind of just shake my head at, like, if you look at, I want a Magic Johnson rookie card or Larry Bird rookie card, they're on the same card. So essentially, like, they're double the value, but they don't get the individual, like, card thing, because that year the company that made the cards decided we're going to have fans be able to tear them into thirds and stack them and make them little. But what that did is kill the value of the card. You don't tear up a card like that. So This is his first individual card. So I have it here. And that's my Larry Bird history lesson for today. But yeah, like an amazing player. Even the hardest core Laker fan, I'm not talking about me, but just anyone would admit that Larry Bird is a top 10 player, and we can debate, and then can debate where he ranks in the Celtics hierarchy. Is he number 2 behind Will Russell? Is he number 1 behind no one? That's a great debate.
Well, we're going to have that debate right now, Kwani.
I was going to say, what's your answer as an LA guy?
I'd say he's number 2 behind Russell. I don't think you can't take away 11 championships. But Bird is the second best Celtic of all time. I don't think that's any question about that. And then you can go into whether it's Kuzly or Havlicek, where Pierce ranks. I'm sure, Tatum is making his way up the list. There's all types of great players, obviously, in Celtic history. Where do you put Mikel and Parrish and those guys? But I would say Bird is number 2 because of 11 championships. The Russell just did so much. It's hard to argue, but in a current modern time, I can see fans thinking Bird is the greatest Celtic of all time, and that's a legitimate argument.
No, I'm with you on this one, Gary. I think he is number 2, and 2 Russell, because of not only Russell's impact on the court, but also beyond the court. That has to be taken into account without question. Because if you're simply looking at just ability on the floor, I still would put Russell, because Russell did the one thing that players are conditioned to want to do above anything and everything else, and that's win at the highest level. And you look at the guys that Russell played with, you look at the guys that Bird played with, very comparable in terms of high-level Hall of Fame-esque talent. But that being said, Russell still was the most impactful player night in and night out. Bird, I think, was the best player, but I'm not sure that during his time with the Celtics that he was always the most impactful. Great player, taking nothing away from him. But, our own Cedric Maxwell, for example, I mean, he, was a Finals MVP playing with Larry Bird. And while Russell did not win Finals MVP every time he won a championship, you win 11 damn championships. You literally can't walk away with the damn chip and be the best player every single one of those runs. And the fact that he was able to do that for so many years. But Larry Bird, if you're going to be second to anyone, Bill Russell is probably the guy you want to be second to. But to your point, Gary, I think people who maybe don't have as extensive an understanding of the Celtics history and how, they know they have 18 banners, but they really don't necessarily understand who led the charge in them getting the first 10, 12, etc. They may see Larry Bird and think that, success began and ended with Larry Bird, when in fact there was a complete novel full of narratives before that. And Bill Russell was the author of many of those championship narratives. So, Bird number 2, Mr. Russell number 1.
The two of them agreed on something. All right.
Well, Larry Bird retires this day. Gary and I agree on this day. Wow.
There we go. We
this
like
day
to do
Celtics
that.
history. You got another moment in Celtics history today.
That's true. All right. So we've reminisced enough about the Celtics past, I think. So let's move ahead to Celtics present. It's been a minute since we've done a Jayson Tatum update. He is in the gym. Nick saying his trainer has him working. And Tatum saying, I ain't here 6 days a week for no reason. He's clearly very motivated to get back. But I think we all agree on this, honestly. Like, we keep having this conversation. But, like, what do you think is his motivation at this point? Especially because we know it's not realistic for him to necessarily be back, at least in the regular season. So why work so hard right now?
I think Tatum is getting to that point where, he's done everything but win league MVP. And that's winning league MVP, I don't believe is the motivation. Cementing your legacy as one of the all-time greats, I think is. I think he's motivated to get back to continue adding on to that part of his career. And this is really the first setback that he's had as a Celtic. I mean, you look at all that he's accomplished individually. You look, he's won a championship. He has done pretty much everything you would want to accomplish as a player in this league, and particularly with this organization, which, as we've talked about with Larry Bird, I mean, the fact that Larry Bird is easily in the top 3, top 4 all-time players without anyone, I think, questioning that is phenomenal with this organization. The fact that Tatum, if he can bounce back from this injury and continue to play at a level comparable to what we've seen up to this point, he's going to enter that conversation and have the receipts to back it up. And I think that is part of the motivation for him to continue to be in the gym 6 days a week, because yes, he wants to get back out there, and yes, he wants to compete, but he also knows that he's battling something bigger than just winning games and winning championships. He's trying to cement his place as an all-time great Celtic. And part of that is getting your ass back on the court as soon as possible, as long as you're healthy. And I do think that's part of what's just driving him to, be in the gym 6 days a week, because Tatum knows he don't got to be in the gym 6 days a week. He does not have to do that. But for him to, I think, really commit himself to being as close to the Tatum pre-Achilles injury, that's going to be required.
Yeah, I think he's motivated in many ways. And I think it's a lot of people telling him that, one, he's going to miss all year and he's never going to be the same, or physically he's not going to be, athletically he's going to lose a step. And I think he's determined to prove that he's going to be, if not the same, if not better than he was before. And I just think he's going to probably get into better shape. And I'm not talking about he's in great shape, phenomenal shape, but maybe he puts some, a little bit more muscle on those legs and muscle in that area to make sure that he's got more lift and more endurance. Maybe he just tries to do what these, one of them movies, where he comes back, a mutant, he comes back just like with more muscles and just looking like a superhuman, right? And I just think he wants to defy what anybody else is telling him. Oh, Jayson, take your time, just take it easy, just get back when you can. And he's going to be in that gym pushing himself. I think the vulnerability that he showed when he was unable to get up, and I just think that sticks with him. That moment has got to stick with you, right? That moment has got to be something that I'm sure he's watched. I don't know how many replays he's watched, but I'm sure he's seen the tape of him. He's unable to get up, and he's just like hitting the floor in pain, and I'm sure he's like, that's never happening to me again, and I'm going to make sure that I'm strong enough, and my Achilles is strong enough, and I'm going to make sure that I am ready. And whether that mean ready in May, whether that be ready for 26-27 season, I'm going to be ready 100% for the second half of my career, because basically this is the second half of his career. He's been in the league now. This was his 8th year. I mean, is he going to play 16 years? Probably, maybe. He's on that trajectory to play 16 years. Will he get to the LeBron 2021? Don't know about that. That's special. But I think he understands this is the second half of my career. He's 27 years old and he's not promised to play till he's 40. I got to be the absolute maximum best physically I can be. And hopefully he doesn't push it too much, re-injure it. I remember, was it Klay Thompson who tore his ACL, and then he was working out, and then he tore his Achilles during his rehab for his ACL, so he missed 2 years, right? You don't want him tearing anything else. You don't want him doing any other damage. So I'm sure the Celtics are like, hey, Jayson, lift weights, do the leg exercises, but don't push yourself too much to where you're risking anything. So I'm sure he's following the rules, but I'm also sure he's living at the gym.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting to see what that Tatum 2.0 ends up looking like, but obviously we're going to continue to follow his journey and obviously what he shares with us on social media as well. But before we move on, I want to remind our listeners, when they're not listening to the Big Three podcast, NBA podcast specifically, they should be showing love to Prizepicks. They're America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. You can download the app today and get a $50 bonus after your first $5 lineup. And as a friendly reminder, this is the Big Three NBA podcast, again, part of the CLNS Media Network, which is where you'll find our podcast, past and present, as well as a lot of great other Celtics content regularly.
Absolutely. And just to pick up where Kwani left off, Prizepicks is the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, Prizepicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prizepicks, which again is the best place to win cash while watching sports. Join millions of users and sign up today. You can mix and match your player projections for different sports, whether we're talking women's basketball, soccer, esports, you name it, and Prizepicks has you covered. How do you get in? It's really, 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 really simple. You just download the app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, you download the app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks, run your game.
Michael Porter Jr. now with the Nets, and it's interesting because he's been around in the media or in kind of forward facing now, because every few days he's on a podcast talking about something, saying something. And thankfully, we're not even going to talk about one of the worst things he said on a podcast this week. But he's also been talking about how the NBA players and their work ethics and the perceptions that fans think that NBA players are working hard in the gym like Tatum. try once they get to the league, because a lot of, I think there is this perception that you're hungry and you're going to want to succeed, but MPJ is saying that's not necessarily the case. So do you agree with him or disagree with him on that matter?
Well, here's the thing. I disagree with him from the standpoint of I don't think fans believe that all or most NBA players work hard.
Yeah, I think we all know.
I think him coming up with that as his premise that, I want to show these people out there and fans that we all don't really work hard. I got one word for you, Luka. Come on now. He's in shape this year, but let's be honest. We've had this conversation damn near every year he's been in the league. When is he going to come, in shape and ready to be more durable and things like that? When I was in Detroit, here in Boston, there's countless players that show up to training camp. You think like, damn, somebody spent a little too much time, drinking Mai Tais and Dunkin' Donuts and eating crab cakes and just having a good old off season.
You're making it sound very wholesome.
If for you and me, it is.
Mai Tais and Dunkin' Donuts.
Well, for someone who's being paid like millions and millions of dollars to be ready to hit the ground running come training camp, nah, that should not be your narrative. That should not be your story. So I disagree with the premise that fans think players come in shape and just work hard in the offseason. I don't think fans believe that, because fans, they've seen too many examples throughout the years of their favorite players who show up to training camp as if they have done little to nothing to prepare for that season. That's why we often see coaches talk about getting guys early in the season into game shape where their minutes might be reduced. And so they don't, and you're like, why am I supporting big fella who should have been at least doing something to get himself ready to enroll come training camp? It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Garrett, what are your thoughts on that, man?
Well, I think there are players in the NBA that are notoriously hard workers, that are live in the gym, love the game, and there's those who don't. And I just think that's the way it is for every job. There's people that we work with, there's players that love what they do, they're passionate, and there's people that we work with that punch a clock, work the time that they need to work, and then they go home and they come back again the next day and they just do it, and they're okay with that. I mean, I just think with someone like Michael Porter Jr., I just think it's interesting. I mean, he's a guy who's always been accused of, like, he should be on that Tatum level and never did get there. He's a guy who's, was a one and done. I think how many games he played in Missouri? Like, it wasn't much.
Not much, because he wasn't healthy there.
Yeah, and he's been talked about for years as being this, generational player, cornerstone. And in Denver, he was the third or fourth option. I don't think he was very good during the finals when they won. I think Denver was looking to get him out of there because he never really got up to that next level to help Jokic. And now they got Cameron Johnson, who's can shoot the three ball and defend. And I think everybody was waiting for Michael Porter Jr. to hit that next level and to be that all-star caliber player, be on the cusp of an all-star. It's just never happened. So, for him to go on and this, players don't work hard. Like, I don't know if he's the best spokesman for that, the best representative for players like me. We work hard, but there's those who don't. Like, I think his talent has never been questioned. It's been, I don't know if to say his work ethic, but it is definitely something that never quite got there in Denver. And that's why they were looking to trade him. And they gave him that
this was a good
MAC extension. And so for me, I just think fans need to realize, if they don't already, that there are players who are the Kevin Garnett's, the guys who are just live in the gym, love this, bleed it, drink it, eat it. And there's those who use this. This is a job for them. And they work and they take care of what they do and they go home. And sometimes it's rookies. You see young guys and they're not the last one at practice, or you see the veterans on the floor and the rookies are all dressed and leaving. And you're like, okay, you're not quite where you need to be. Why aren't you working with the veterans? Why aren't you staying until the gym, they turn the lights out in the gym? How come you're how come you're not being, well, you got someplace to be? And so I think we have to understand with NBA players, it's like anything else. There's, I would say 65% of the league bust their ass. The other 35%, it varies. And so I do think Michael Porter Jr. makes a point, but I don't know if he's the best representative for hard work and work ethic when he never took a step toward an all-star team in his years in Denver.
Yeah, because I mean he's the guy that was drafted, and everyone talked about how if he were healthy, he would be the number one pick. And he's never been a number one pick player. And the other thing too, and I think we all can relate to this, is that everyone you work with don't go to work hard. Some people just show up to again, they're just here to get them bills paid. And the NBA is no different. You got guys who are so ridiculously talented that they can just coast and not really work on their game and be good enough to be in that top 7, top 8 man rotation. It's just that they're never going to be the man. They ain't trying to be the man, but they're good enough to where you need them to help you win games. And if we really, really, really want to put our minds to it, we could probably rattle off 8, 9, 10 guys who fall into that category. So to me, what Michael Porter, what MPJ is pointing out, while I think he's right that there are guys that don't work hard. Let's not act as if the NBA is this unicorn profession where everyone is supposedly working hard and I just want to dispel that rumor. Nah, bro, that we know this, Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah.
And to Gary's point,
also no one asked him. It's like when they said we don't want to know what Ja Rule has to think about like a national tragedy. I feel like Michael Porter Jr. should not be the spokesperson for the
well
NBA.
played, Kwani, because I was like, where the hell is she going with Ja Rule, bringing him into the okay?
No, there's just no.
Okay.
No, thank you, PJ. But great conversation, guys. We're gonna end on a good note. Former Celtic Danilo Gallinari, his wife Eleonora, she's 6 months pregnant, and this story was definitely a roller coaster ride. So I think they were on vacation. She got bit. She said she thought it was like a jellyfish stinging her, but it turns out it was a shark biting her. Thankfully, they were able to get her to a nearby hospital. They were in Puerto Rico, and she was released with no issues. The baby's good. Everyone's good. So that's the good news. But it's still such a bizarre story that, like, one of the headlines I read, she was just like, I'm traumatized. I'm like, I don't blame you, sis. Getting bitten by a shark is no easy feat, but I'm glad that they're okay. That's the best part of the story.
Yeah, I'm glad too, and it was good to just. I mean, to be honest with you, I completely forgot about Danilo, where he was at.
Yeah.
So it was good to get an update on him. He's playing in Puerto Rico. He's one of my favorite former Celtics for a reason. He was on a podcast with us on his way to his wedding rehearsal, driving through the mountains of some country.
I remember.
And I'm thinking, like, that's a real one. Because he could have easily
with us, I think. Yeah.
He could have easily said, nah, I ain't got time for this. I'm but he was like, I'm gonna do this for y'all. And that's my dude.
Dog.
So it was great to hear that things are good for him and his wife. This will be the child number 3, I believe. And he's playing in Puerto Rico now after 14 seasons in the NBA. So it's good to see that he's doing well, man. He was a good dude. I genuinely like him. Even before he did us a solid on the podcast, I like him. He's back when he was in Denver.
Yeah, that's real. All right. Well, any final words before we get out of here?
I'm good. Shout out to Larry Bird, shutting it down 33 years ago today. Much respect.
33. Wow. Nice.
Yeah, I always enjoyed Larry's game. Seriously. I mean, I grew up a Bernard King fan of New York Knicks because Bernard King was like every chubby, non-jumping out the gym black kid in the hood. Bernard King was our messiah because Bernard never left the ground, but he'd get you 30.
Yeah.
He was, I'm like, that's my guy. But, Larry Bird, again, underrated for just his ability to do things that he doesn't get enough attention. Like, he can shoot, he can rebound, he talks trash. But again, I go back to that first step that he gives you. I mean, it's a killer. It is an absolutely I mean, it sets the table for so much of what he did as a player. So, again, just, giving that man his props and his flowers for being one of the all-time greats. And again, Gary and I are on the same page with Larry Bird. We both agree that he's the second best player in franchise history. The fact that Gary and I now the third best player, that I think we might have some issues with. But the fact that Larry Bird, of all the great players that have come through this organization, the only one that I feel comfortable and confident was a better Celtic is Bill Russell. You can make a case for a couple other guys, but the one that I feel very comfortable saying was just a notch better as a Celtic was Bill Russell.
The fun part is that the headline will say, is Larry Bird the second best Celtic? And people are going to be mad and they're going to say we're being clickbaity. But you guys have reasonable arguments. So I don't think that's the case.
Because if you say he's better than Bill Russell, that to me, that opens up a Pandora's box.
Like, what do you
other guys? Yeah. Like, what about Hondo? What about
rabbit holes.
Exactly.
Well, that's all we have. I love this. Obviously, before we get out of here, one more reminder for those of you who are listening, we just ask that you subscribe, leave a review if you haven't done so already. And for those of you that are watching the show on CLNS, go ahead, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed to the CLNS Media and Celtics All Access YouTube channel, where you can find our show and a lot of other great Celtics content. And one more thing, just make sure you turn on those notifications so that you know the instant a new video drops. For Sherrod Blakely and Gary Washburn, I'm Kwani Lunis, and this is the Big 3 NBA Podcast.